Nithya Ramachandra from the NR Media, NR Sports Show, back with another episode. Giant fans, buckle your seatbelt. I got a special episode for you guys. Everybody knows about this. Everybody knows him. But before I introduce him, fans, please tune in onto our Speaker app. Everybody knows about the Speaker app where you can tune in, ask questions for all the guests that we have on the show. We are also live on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and on all the other podcast platforms. And I can't believe it's already almost 2025. We're approaching Christmas already, man. This December's flying by, and I hope everyone had a great weekend. Start off the new week right here. Man, a lot of things happening in the NFL world. And today's guest, we have Corey Webster. He's a former NFL cornerback. He won 2 Super Bowls with your New York Football Giants. And guess who? They beat the Patriots two times, and he was part of that. And we'll get to all of that and how he got into the playing football and what was it like playing with the Giants. He spent his whole career with the Giants, which is rare in the NFL because a lot of NFL is a business now and a lot of player movement. But he's one of the players that got to spend one with one team throughout his career, so we'll get to all of that. And he had a lot of great teammates, and he played for LSU in college. That's a great college program there. So fans, please tune in. Giant fans, please tune in. I know you know about Corey Webster. He brought toughness on the field. He whenever he was healthy, in my opinion, he's an underrated defensive back in the NFL, and he helped the Giants to win the 2 Super Bowls. But Corey, thank you for joining. We finally made this happen. I wanted this to make this happen, and we did. So Corey, how are you and your family doing today?
Everybody wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Appreciate those nice words you said right there, and for being patient, like I said before.
Yeah, thank you. So tell our fans before we get started. I want to get. I don't know how you if you're paying attention to the current Giants team this year, but if you are, just tell our fans how surprised are you that they're having a tough year this year, and what do you think they need to do to get back where you guys were when you were playing?
Yeah, it's been difficult, so I appreciate the fans. I was up there a few weeks ago, and I said, man, I have a new true respect for the fans, because I think we was playing Tampa Bay, and it was 55,000+ that came out in support. And things are just, I'm definitely tuning in. Like you said, a lot of people say once a Giant, always a Giant. Yep. But I'm once a Giant, only a Giant. I've never been nothing else. So with that being said, I'm always tuning in. I'm always, optimistic and wishing for the best. And to be honest, I'm super surprised because at the end of last season, a couple of years ago when we went to the playoff, I thought it was going to be on the up and up. And I'm super surprised to see where we are right now with what's going on, what's taking place. And it's unfamiliar territory for myself, right? Because I always think that once you go to a place and, you leave your imprint and, you try to make it a better place, that it's going to continue to grow and get better. And in this case right here, I'm 10+ years of being removed, and it's not looking like that right now. Right. And I'm out here living in Dallas, Texas. The only thing that's been a bright spot about this is that Dallas has been losing too. And I don't know if we can say that's a bright spot. So, like I said, I have a great respect for the fans and their support, but I did not see it going this way.
Yeah, so we'll talk about more about the Giants, but I want to get to your career. You were born in Louisiana, and what was it? Talk about your early life with your family growing up, and when did you start getting interested in playing football? And just talk about your early life.
Yeah, grew up in Louisiana. My mom, dad, 2 older sisters. Yeah. A close group. I'm sorry. As far as family, the dynamic was very supportive. Dad supported everything we did. Mom supported everything we did. Kind of got into sports because of my 2 older sisters. They started playing, softball and travel baseball, and definitely they played basketball as well. I did. Early on, had to go to a couple of dance recitals, but I'm happy they grew out of that. I'm the baby of the 2 older sisters. So, but just a close-knit group. And I really got into sports just because my father wanted us to be involved in extracurricular activity. It wasn't about, I see a lot of parents now, they're getting their kids in sports about, making a living doing this and, getting scholarships and things of that nature. I really didn't get into sports because of that. We just got into sports, to be active, to have something to do after school, and to be, I guess, in a constructive environment as far as having a team base there to socialize. And that was kind of the main point. But played I guess, football, basketball, and baseball at a young age. Kind of let football, kind of just happen on its own. My true love, I would probably say, was just competing and not just a particular sport. But basketball kind of came easier to me because I had a trainer and stuff at the age of like 12, 13 years old. So basketball just came easy. But, using that skill as far as, that's why I tell kids, hey, the more you can do, the better. A lot of those skills and things that you do in basketball and in other sports, they transition into all sports. So that's kind of how my early, just being involved and having extracurricular activities and, just wanting to get myself and other kids out of, downtime and not having, idle time. And, that normally leads to trouble and things of that nature.
Yeah, fans, we are live with two-time Super Bowl champion Corey Webster. Please put your questions into the speak grab. He'll answer some of your questions.
Yeah.
But talk about, speaking of playing multiple sports, what was it? How important was it for you to play multiple sports throughout your career? Like you just mentioned, basketball helped you out with football, and now these kids are playing multiple sports. And what's that? How important is that for people whenever they choose a sport they want to play to have other sports underneath their belt?
I think, at a young age, you never know what you're going to make a career out of. I mean, I don't think it's no different in not just in the sports field, but, just embracing all the newness that comes along with the opportunities that you have to experience, right? So I think as far as baseball, hand-eye coordination, as far as baseball, being able to judge the ball, in the air, catching a pop fly or being in the outfield and things of that nature, footwork has a lot to do with, every sport, you know what I mean? So being able to learn footwork in, basketball that translate over to the game of football, that was big for me because like I said, I was trained in basketball. So a lot of the basketball footwork, the 1-2 step, the being able to step slide as far as on defense, all that transition and translate to being a cornerback or even being a receiver when it comes to understanding route combinations and being able to run a route and understanding that, hey, it's a timing when it comes to these routes. So your route has to be precise. So if it's 6 steps and break the cut, or if it's 3 steps and get out of the cut because you want to be on a time with the quarterback, it's important to get those footwork and those steps right. So I would always suggest and advise kids to play as many sports as possible. I know a lot now is, teams don't allow that. High schools don't allow that. A lot of kids at a young age are being put in a position to make the decision to only play a specific sport or not. And I think that does a little bit of injustice to the kid. I think they should get out there, experience multiple sports, also understand that they can, if you have a sport that you're dominant in, it's okay to not be so good at another sport, and being able to embrace not being good at it and working toward it is only going to help whatever sport, you land at the end of the day, or whatever profession you land at the end of the day. For me, Nick Saban was my college coach, right? And he only spoke to me in basketball terms. So if I didn't have the basketball terminology that I gathered over the years as a young kid, he wouldn't have had a base to be able to communicate with me on. So I just think it's important. You never know how valuable that is until you need it and you don't have it. So I encourage everybody to play as many sports as possible and just to be active, you know what I mean? Because an active lifestyle is a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, Nick Saban, man, he's great when he's speaking at the podium. And speaking of Nick Saban, what's it like seeing your former coach, now retired, but now doing TV now with College Game Day?
That is another huge surprise because what was taught from being around him was we don't, and not in a negative way, but we don't partake in the media as far as giving the other team or our opponent some bulletin board material. So the less you can say, the more you can stick to the script and have a narrative. We don't want to give them any motivation. These games and this sports are hard enough. We don't need to post bulletin board materials up there because we're speaking too highly of ourselves. And then on the other side of that, believe in everything that you see or read in the media. That can be detrimental to you as well because it's human nature to be in a position to start believing some of that stuff that you read. And he always taught us that, hey, stay even keeled. You're never as great as they say you are. You're never as bad as they say you are. Just know you're somewhere in the middle working to be a better version of yourself. So it's completely surprising that he decided to take on being in the media, but I know whatever he does, he's going to be great at it because, he talks about the process and he's going to have a process of how he's going to approach it. And he's going to do a great job of, bringing, I think, pulling, I guess, the curtain back a little bit and inviting, the fans in to be able to understand the game at a higher level from his perspective. So I think he's doing an awesome job, but it is surprising to see him out there in it.
Yeah. We have our first fan question here on my phone. One of our fans wants to know, what was it like playing for Coach Tom Coughlin?
He's another attention to detail type of guy. He's very disciplined. I think he that comes from I think his military background and things of that nature. I think that you need that type of discipline in order to be successful and in order to be winners. You're right. So it was beautiful playing with Coach Coughlin because my two previous coaches was similar. I had a high school guru. He's passed on right now, Rick Gilly, but he was also like that. Nick Saban was definitely like that, attention to detail, to the minute. And Tom Coughlin was no different. It just challenged you to be a better version of yourself, right? If you come here and you right here with him, he's gonna, expect that you raise your game to the next level, and he do that week in and week out. And he has great motivational skills. He likes to rely on a lot of analytics, and he does a lot of history as well when it comes to coaching and pulling from the great ones that came before us with quotes and things of that nature. And I just think it helps us to be a better, player, a better person, better father at the end of the day. So I had a great time playing for Coach Coughlin. Everybody kind of is a little hard on him about, the discipline, about being 5 minutes, don't be on time, be, 5 minutes, prior to the meeting starting and things of that nature, and I think he get, a little hard time from critics when it comes to that. But other than that, it makes you a better person. It makes you, a better man going forward. It makes you a better father. It makes you a better husband. So I enjoyed my time with Coach Coughlin.
Were you shocked when he didn't get elected for the Hall of Fame for the finalists?
Well, I'm not shocked just because I've been seeing this go on for a while. I think he, he superseded everything. But I also think that he has the support and the fans of his peers as well as of the people that he coached. I think that means more to him. He knows that he made a difference in the young lives of men, and he made those men better. And I don't think he looked for the recognition. If he would have got it, I think he would have been happy about it. I think he should have gotten it. Mm-hmm. But I'm not surprised with how this goes. Sometimes it's a popularity thing, and Coach Coughlin is not one of those guys that's going to kiss anything to get his name pushed across. I think the work that he's done is enough, and they should have celebrated that. I think they missed the opportunity to celebrate it.
Yeah. So speaking of high school, tell our fans you had an interesting high school career. You got to play some quarterback with the team, and you played basketball. You were a point guard in basketball. So talk about what is it like being a quarterback and getting a chance to do that.
Yeah, I never played no other position in high school but quarterback. So my whole time in high school, I was a quarterback that ran the wing T. The wing T is an offense that came from Delaware. My coach was one of them that started that offense and kind of left from Delaware, brought it to Louisiana, and now a lot of people run different forms of the wing T. I also want to say that quiet as it kept, our high school was named St. James Wildcats, and I would have to say, and they could go look it up and do the research, my coach invented the Wildcat offense based off of the wing T, based off of him having me as an athlete and moving me from under center to shotgun, and that was the birth of the wing T. That was the birth of the Wildcat offense. So I remember doing coaching clinics and things like that with him, where he would sell the offense and things like that in Louisiana, and it's all documented. They can do their research to go find it. But yes, I enjoyed playing quarterback. I think he saw that I was a leader on the basketball court. Not that he saw a quarterback in me because I hadn't played quarterback, in Little League or nothing like that. So he was like, "Hey, you're a leader. You're a point guard. I need you to do the same thing for the football team." So that's kind of where that came from. And the rest is history. I also had some scholarships to go play quarterback. I just didn't think that I was a quarterback. I never really wanted to play the position. I just got kind of forced in the position because he was telling me that, "Hey, you our best athlete. We're going to put the ball in your hand every time. And we're going to let you make good decisions with it like you do in the basketball court." So that's why I talk about, how those sports overlap each other and things of that nature. So I enjoyed playing quarterback. I also had Baylor at the time had gosh, I don't want to lie to you. I want to say Tommy Frazier. One of the Nebraska quarterbacks was at Baylor at the time when I was coming out, so he recruited me to be a quarterback out there in Baylor. Also Nebraska. I was Nebraska was the team of the '90s. So in 2000, they had won a couple of national championships. I remember Eric Crouch was the quarterback at the time. He had just won a Heisman. So I really pressed hard and thought about playing quarterback at Nebraska or going down that route. But it just didn't work out that way. And this basketball, man, like I said, we've been training for basketball, playing AAU on a circuit and things like that from a young age. So I was able to win a high school state championship in basketball, and LSU and a couple other schools was recruiting me for basketball. So it was some decisions that needed to be made. Ultimately, it came down with, building a relationship with Nick Saban and understanding how he has a process and how he wants to develop young men and turn them into grown men. And that's why I elected to go and learn and play football underneath him.
Wow. Yeah, you actually, and you're also a quarterback on defense throughout your career. So the defensive back position is abhorrent sometimes on the football field. We have another fan question for you on my phone. They want to know who is some of the toughest receivers you have to go against in your career.
Well, I'll say this to your point about the quarterback. Quarterback helped me a lot in seeing the game from that perspective. And then being able to play. I played receiver too. I played both ways in college. Mm-hmm. So I started out as a receiver. Then Saban said, you're going to practice at both receiver and cornerback. So anyway, just to be able to see the game from the perspective of a quarterback, then understanding the receiver's route and things of that nature, and then going on the defense side and then ended up having to use all that to be successful on defense. So I'll say that. I'm sorry. That question again, what that fan question was?
Who was some of the toughest
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I always say this, and I know people NFL, and I don't want to come off as I guess arrogant, but the NFL, when it came down to just one-on-one and the receivers wasn't as challenging as it was in college when you had to go against these guys that was hungry, that was trying to make a name for themselves every day. I remember we had Michael Clayton, one of the top receivers at LSU. We also had a Bulletin winner in Josh Reed that went on and did great things for the Buffalo Bills. We also had like track guys that also was athletes and been in Brazil that went to I think Athens, Greece, and ran in the Olympics. We also had Xavier Carter that was an athlete but track guy that I think he broke Jesse Owens' records of winning the 100, the 200, and the 4x in a certain amount of time in all in 30 minutes at a track meet. And then we had a lot of other guys that played professional football, like Craig Buster Davis, Dwayne Bowe, and I don't want to leave anybody out, but just a lot of guys that was on that. Skylar Green, a lot of guys that Devery Henderson, another track, did track at LSU, also played for the Saints once. So we had a lot of guys that was just different type of receivers at LSU. So every time you got to line up in front of somebody, it was a world-class sprinter. It was a quick and shifty guy, and I think that prepared me for the guys in the NFL. Now, when you get to the NFL, I think that the smaller, shiftier guys, the Deshaun Watsons,
Deshaun Jackson. Yeah,
Deshaun Jackson. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Deshaun Jackson. The Sonoris Moss, the Santana Moss, the Steve Smith kind of guys. They can give a bit of a problem just because I was considered a big corner. So those guys were smaller guys. I would say when you was defending some of the bigger receivers, it was a little easier when you got your hands on those guys because it took them longer to get started. So if you get your hands on a T.O., you get your hands on a Randy Moss early, then that slows down the route and it also throws off the timing. I think with some cornerbacks struggle with was wanting to get up there and play bump and run against those physical guys because they just didn't understand, how that you can use that to their advantage. So I would say in the NFL, just some of the shiftier, quicker guys at the line of scrimmage trying to be patient and and stay in front of those guys and get your hands on. So that's what I would say.
Yeah. Speaking of Randy Moss, praying for him.
Yes.
Yeah. He stepped away from ESPN right now, as of now, for health concerns. So please, everyone, pray for Randy Moss, one of the best in the business, in my opinion. And speaking of two-way players, Travis Hunter from Colorado is doing that currently. What are your thoughts on him, Travis Hunter?
I like it. I enjoy it. I just think that, if you can do it, if you can be great at one thing, you should definitely be able to explore other things. You know what I mean? Even guys that play dual sports. Now, it's going to come a time when it's only 24 hours in a day. You know what I mean? So you have to put the time in to hone in your craft when it comes to, next level. But I love it right now. I remember at the time when I did it, I remember Charles Woodson having like a hundred and I want to say it was like 117, 118 plays. I remember Champ Bailey being one that had like 100 and something plays. And I remember one year Nick Saban had me out there. And that's what, playing offense, playing defense, playing special teams and things of that nature. And I recorded 113, 114. I was number 3. So seeing Travis Hunter come out there and supersede all of that, you know what I mean, and having like 134 snaps in multiple games. That was only 1 or 2 games for us. I think that's, a testament to his hard work, how he prepare, how he rehab, how he prehab. I don't want to say rehab, how he prehab, how he prepares, and take care of his body, as well as what type of shape this guy's in, you know what I mean, to be able to go out there and do that. So hats off to him. I'm enjoying watching it. And I'm happy to say that I was, in that class.
Yeah, that was it's going to be interesting to see who gets Travis Hunter, because whoever gets Travis Hunter is going to be he's going to be a star in the league, in my opinion. So talk about your college recruitment. You chose LSU. You stay close to home for your family and friends, and like you said, you got recruited as a wide receiver from LSU. But talk about the recruitment process and how special was it for you to stay home, close with your family and friends, for them to come watch your games. And actually, a funny story. One of my mentors, Landon Marshall, he played for the Giants. He went to LSU. He's one of my close mentors, and he's a family friend to me also. And so talk about that LSU and staying close to home.
Yeah, the recruitment process was a little difficult for me because of the, playing multiple sports, and that's a good problem. I remember Saban used to always say that's a good problem to have when you have options and you have to sit down and make decisions. So whether I was going to play just basketball, whether I wanted to go to a school to play basketball and football, whether I wanted to go to a school to play quarterback, or whether I wanted to pursue a school that LSU kind of had me as an athlete. So and the funny thing, at the time, Saban was only coming into LSU that spring semester because he had just took the job from coming down from Michigan State. But prior to that, I didn't want to go to LSU because of the things that had happened prior to that. They wasn't, very good at that time. They had Jared Donato, and I think had great players, but as far as they had a stereotype about LSU at the time, and it was that they didn't take care of, especially their black athletes. So, my community, my parents, they wanted me to go to a school that's going to make sure that they put education, the holistic player ahead of everything. So LSU at the time, we didn't get that feeling from them. So I really didn't take no official visit to LSU. Oh. So I took my official visit to, Nebraska. I think Southern Miss. Nebraska was the quarterback. Southern Miss was going to allow me to play both sports as well as be an athlete. Basketball was UMass. So I took a trip to UMass because UMass was recruiting me from a basketball standpoint. And it was like, okay, it's cool. If you want to play football, we'll let you do that too as well. And I forget the other. Oh, I took a trip to Baylor. Mm-hmm. And I forget my 5th official visit. Anyway, it wasn't until that spring that Saban came in that, he opened up recruiting, because at first he came in, he said he was going to honor the recruits that Jared Donato had coming in. But then he said, doing his research, watching film, he didn't feel that he had the best people from Louisiana on the team. So he wanted to open up recruiting and go back in and, make a decision based off of what he saw, and not what the guy before him had left for him. So when that happened, that's when the Jimbo Fishers, the Pete Jenkins, and all these guys came into play as far as recruiting me. And, and then not only, my daddy still wasn't sold. So I kind of had to go against what, and not that he was giving bad information. My daddy was just going on the history of LSU and what they had been doing prior. So my reason to go to LSU, I tell a lot of the kids now, is not the reason why they go to LSU now. And I want them to understand that I don't want you to go to LSU just because I went there. Yes, it would be beautiful if everybody wore purple and gold, but as an athlete, I want you to make the best possible decision for yourself and for your family, because this is not a 4-year commitment. It's a 40-year commitment. So me committing to LSU after understanding that Nick Saban is the guy, unbeknownst to my parents, because at the time my daddy wasn't sold on it because he was still sold on, the politics and everything that came around LSU from what he was raised seeing, right? So being able to say, Dad, this is where I want to go. This is what I need you. This is my decision. I need you to support me. And then believing and trusting in the vision that Coach Saban had, having faith in that. We wanted to go to LSU to become the first one of us. And what I mean by that was there was a lot of schools that you could go be the next Eric Crouch. You could go be the next Tommy Frazier. But we wanted to start something where, hey, you could be the first Corey Webster if you come over here to LSU. And that took believing in Coach Saban's vision. And that was the birth of DBU, because before us, it wasn't that, you know what I mean? And I kind of think that Saban talked about that too. He said the best championship to him, if he had to pick, was the LSU 2003 championship. And I think it's because of those same reasons that we're talking about now, and a lot of that was built off of that first class back. Mm-hmm. And I think only 8 of us graduated out of that first initial class, and it was the core of what was, now what we see on LSU campus now. So I think that was very important. And that was my reason to go to LSU, because I wanted to, change what the state school was. And I had an opportunity to go there and make a name for myself and, make a name for the young athletes that come behind us. And I think we did a great job of that. That's why we see kids wanting to go to LSU from all over the country now.
Oh. We have another fan question here. One of our fans wants to know who were some of the top, some of the defensive players that you looked up to?
Some of the obvious, because again, like I said, I was a receiver, I was an athlete, so I was all over the place. So, the Deion Sanders was definitely one because he was an athlete. So, seeing him play receiver, seeing him play defensive back, seeing him play special team was a big thing for me. But also playing quarterback, I can remember my time in high school. Herb Tyler was the quarterback for LSU. So watching Herb Tyler play, I remember I met him out in the mall in Louisiana at the time. So, just putting a combination of, leaders and athletes together. I wore 23, so I'm definitely a fan of Michael Jordan. You know what I mean? All of mine didn't just come straight off the football field. You know what I mean? So, because Allen Iverson, they call, a lot of my nephews, they call me Bubba. Allen Iverson's nickname was Bubba Chuck. So they call me Uncle Bubba from, pulling stuff from Allen Iverson game. Again, he played quarterback in high school. He also was a basketball player. So DBs, when I understood the defensive back, then I just started, Terrell Buckley for Florida State. You know what I mean? I started researching and looking at him as far as being a technician and what can I learn from him, right? How can I, better play the position because I'm, watching this guy on film and things of that nature. Sam Madison, guy that played at Louisville, R.W. McQuarters. And then some of my peers that I was able to watch once I was at that level. You know what I mean? Antrell Rowe, I remember watching him when I was at LSU. He was at, the U, Miami. And just building that relationship with those guys. I think I met him out at the Playboy All-American when they was doing the All-American. I don't think they do it the same way now. But I met him at the Playboy All-American, kept up with him. Gosh, I forgot his name. Marlon Jackson played for Michigan at the time. Went on to play for Indianapolis coach. So it wasn't a lot of guys that and I can say the obvious names, some of the DBs that was just, out there that I can study and learn from. So I take bits and pieces from individuals' game that's positive to add to my game and, to make me a better player. So I can't say just one defensive back in particular, but a host of athletes that I pulled from to, I can remember Andre Dawson, baseball player. You know what I mean? So to be able to pull from it and to make, me a better athlete or a better leader on and off the field.
Hey, Andre Dawson, man, what a great career. Yeah, so talk about your career. You had a great LSU career. You guys won the BCS National Championship 2003. So talk about that moment, winning the championship, the BCS championship game.
Yeah, it was just one of those, fulfilling moments that, you had a goal, you had a vision, and, you believe, you have faith, you trust in the process, and it was able to work out. And that's kind of, the hard work being able to show and pay off at the end of the day. So, and also being able to win it at the state school and also win it in the state that year because the BCS championship game was in New Orleans at the Sugar Bowl. So, I just think that took LSU and it brought it into the, as a household name as far as being a Power 5 school, being a top in the Power 5 and being a football, house that's going to always be around. And look, 20 some years later, and we were able to have that conversation, and we're still seeing LSU being talked about as far as one of the top places to go when it comes to coaching, when it comes to playing. So again, that was a feeling that we're never going to, you know where you was, you knew those relationships that you built, you're going to have them for a lifetime. The brothers that came together, and you sacrifice a lot of selflessness, and you remember those individuals, you remember those times, you remember the tour days, because they don't do tour days like they used to no more either. So just see the evolution of it, how the game is, was there, and how it has come a long way. But you're always going to have your name, stamped in the record books for that 2003 season, and all the brothers, played an important role into it.
And the Giants love LSU players. Like, for example, my mentor, Lennon Marshall, he played for the Giants. And then you, Malik Neighbors now, Odell Beckham. It seems like they love LSU players.
Yeah, and a few more. Chad Jones, the receiver guy, he's going to be mad at me. Randall.
Randall, Ruben Randall?
Ruben Randall, yeah. We can go on. Kendrick Allen, Brandon Winey, even Ryan Clark did a little stint in New York. Clarence LeBlanc, Corey Raymond. Gosh, there's another tight end. I forget his name. Went to St. Aug.
Oh.
And I don't want to leave nobody out. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of I guess New York LSU blood. You know what I mean? So I like to say that for those individuals that came before us, they must have left a lasting impact that they still want to reach down back to us. That's why I also tell guys, you never know, your time being spent in the place, what it does for the next generation or the person that comes behind you. So you always want to leave a lasting impact. So don't just take it with a grain of salt, like, oh, they got me here. No. Notice you may be opening the door for the next LSU player. You know what I mean? Like, hey, those guys from Louisiana, those guys from LSU, they come with a swagger, they come with, work ethics, they come with a determination, with leadership and how they carry themselves. All those things fit into, you want to be a better individual. So I like the fact that, New York continue to reach out to, come down to Louisiana to pick up some athletes. And I like to say that not just myself, everybody that came before me, had a little part in doing that.
Yeah. So tell our fans about your draft experience. So you got drafted in 2005, round 2, pick 43 by the New York Football Giants. What was that like for you and your friends and family waiting for your name to be called? And talk about that, and then getting called, the phone call by Tom Coughlin and the rest of the front office.
Yeah, it was beautiful, and I know a lot of people have stories about wanting to be a top pick and things of that nature, and that's what I would say. I remember I could have come out as a junior, and I remember the individuals that got drafted, and I know ratings, and that doesn't mean anything, but I remember where I was at as a junior, and we had just won a national championship, and people that win a national championship is playing for good teams and things like that, having that notoriety. They know I'm gonna get drafted high accordingly. All they gotta do is put the numbers in place, right? But I remember wanting to go back to school because I told my mama I was going to graduate. You know what I mean? So I made a commitment. I wanted to finish that commitment. So having that year to prepare and understand, I think that was that did the world for me, because I started understanding. And then also Eli went that year. So then I saw people not wanting to go to certain teams or certain organizations. Right. And that was an eye opener to me, because before Eli did that, it was all like, man, I'm just happy to get drafted, right? Mm-hmm. But then when Eli made that, like, that, hey, look, I don't want to go to San Diego. I'm going to go back. I'm like, oh, what? That made me process it a little differently, that, his father being who he was, his older brother being who he was, and having those opportunities, they had a little more knowledge. So me just on the outside looking in was like, that's something there. And then having the opportunity to talk and prepare for that year going in. Yes, we want to get drafted high. That's ultimately, but at the end of the day, I had an injury that I had early in the year. So I just think all those things happen for a reason. And I didn't have no grudges against nobody that got drafted before me. I didn't make no list of players that got, and that may work for some. Just saying what I didn't do. I wasn't mad at the team. I think it happened perfectly. And I embraced the Giants making me their first pick that year. And I treated it just like that. Like I was because I was their first pick. They didn't have, because of the trading things that happened early, and they treated me just like that. So, like I said, I never made a list about, oh man, this many cornerbacks got drafted before me, or this many teams passed up. I'm mad at them. No. I felt like, hey, God put us here. These things happen for a reason. This is where I'm supposed to be, and I'm going to make the best of this opportunity. So when the Giants called me, a small town guy from Basher, Louisiana, by way of Baton Rouge through college and getting drafted to the Big Apple, big city, I was excited. I was elated. I can remember where I was. I'm from a small town, so I was riding four-wheelers, ATVs, and it was like, hey, telephone. And Saban, he did a great job of preparing me for that too, as well. As far as, hey man, you can go early, but a lot of the people that go early, they normally don't go to good teams. The later you go in these drafts, the better situations you're being put in. So I did have that wherewithal because of the people that I had around me as far as resources. So, man, I was super excited when the Giants picked me up, and the rest is history.
Yeah, so I want to get to this game, the particular game you had against the Buccaneers in the playoffs. Okay. So this is interesting because I had Jeff Garcia on the show. Jeff Garcia was on the show too. So you picked off Jeff Garcia during the wild card game. So talk about that game. How big was that for you guys during that year? And talk about that moment.
Well, I can remember leading up to that moment. Throughout that year, I forget what year it was. It might have been my third year, if I'm not mistaken. So I got pulled out the starting lineup earlier, maybe game 3 or so, right? So, and I got reinserted back into the lineup around the second to last game of the season. I don't want to lie to you. I think it was against Buffalo. Mm-hmm. And I was able to have success there, interception for a touchdown. And we needed that game in order to get a spot in the playoffs. So after that game, I remember Sam Madison, which is a mentor to me, right before the Tampa Bay game, he stood up in front of the defensive meeting room and was angry because I guess Coach wasn't speaking like he should have been speaking as far as what Sam thought, right? Yeah. And this is Coach Spagnola at the time, and that's a great friend of mine too. But Spag was saying like, 23 going to have him, 23 going to do this. And Sam was like, I don't want to hear no 23. Say Corey's name. So he slammed on the desk and like, hey, say Corey's matching up with the best receiver, and that's what it's going to be. And he stood up and said that, and Coach Spag was like, okay, yeah. Corey, you got, so that's how that came about. So once I had the confidence of, which I already knew I had the confidence of Sam, I already knew I had the confidence of my, my defense, my teammates, because they never flinched, even with what was going on early in the season. But for him to say that right there in that moment, and that just kind of, I had a fumble recovery on special teams that game and an interception. So that kind of just propelled me forward as far as, hey, man, we're going to go out here. We're going to, dominate every possession we get a chance to. And I was able to, be in the right place at the right time, help my team get a W.
Yeah, and speaking of, and then that game led you to go to play against the Green Bay Packers in the cold, the really cold weather game, and you got, and I think that was Brett Favre's last game, I think, if I remember, but a last pass against you guys. So talk about that game, going into Green Bay and playing in that cold, and eventually going into the Super Bowl.
Well, yeah. What we did, I think we played the Cowboys in between. And in between that, I dropped the interception against the Cowboys. Shame on me, you know what I mean? That's what we remember, right? I should have had an interception every playoff game, you know what I mean? But I dropped one against the Cowboys. And then Green Bay, same thing. I'm following, down a driver. First of all, I'm from Louisiana. Louisiana, we wear shorts during Christmas, right? So it's never that cold. I could count on the time that we saw a little ice stick on the ground in Louisiana. So going from Louisiana to New York was an adjustment. But now you ask me to play in the third coldest game ever. That's what we got to go do, right? Is negative, what, 25, negative 30, some with the windshield. And we trying everything, We got chicken broth. We got hot cocoa. We got, everything on the sideline trying to stay warm. And, we on the road. We everybody's against the Giants. That's how we feeling. We calling ourselves Road Warriors. Green Bay don't give us the best condition when it comes to heated benches. All that was, wasn't working. You know what I mean? So we normally have these little fire heaters on the sideline as well. And You normally have 2 or 3 of them on the sideline. We have only one working at the time, so all this is working against us. So, if any time we was going to come together as a team, let's huddle up. It's cold, right? So, able to be up and down in that game, but ultimately was able to, make a play on the ball in overtime to help my team get to the Super Bowl. And that is exactly right. As Brent Favre last pass as a Packer, and that would be me catching it, not a Green Bay Packer.
There you go. Yeah, tell our fans, the 2 Super Bowls are special, especially the first one when you guys broke the undefeated streak from the Patriots. And talk about those 2 Super Bowl runs together, because I feel like both of them are special, and I want to put them together. So talk about the first one and the second one, playing against Tom Brady twice and beating them twice, and talk about Eli Manning. He had success in both Super Bowls, and talk about how did you guys deal with the emotions? And a lot of people doubted you guys in both Super Bowls, and you guys proved them wrong.
Yeah, each Super Bowl is very special. Like you said, I would never put one over the other, but it all has its different type of adversity and situation that we had to overcome in order to make it to where we wanted to.